my knife reviews. Here's your host, Joshua Hightower.
Welcome to Knife Reviews. I'm your host, Joshua Hightower, and this is my partner, Evan Hightower.
Hi.
We appreciate you being here with us. We're out here in Central Arkansas. We're doing a knife review for you.
And also this.
It's the infamous Becker BK2 from Kabar. We'll get to that in just a minute. I wanted to do a little update for a giveaway that we're planning on doing. When we get to 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we're going to give away one of my custom-made ferrule rods.
And this.
So go ahead and give us a share and subscribe to us, and when we get to 100 we'll pick a random winner and give this away and send it off to them. The Becker by Kabar BK2 is a 10.5 inch overall length fixed blade drop point knife. Has a 5 1/4 inch cutting edge. It's 1095 Crovan. As you can see, it's coated with it, which is almost like a truck bed liner. This knife, I have changed out the handles that normally come on it to these micarta scales. It's a massive, thick knife, and it's incredibly heavy. It's a 1 pound overall knife. On 10.5 inches, that is a massive crowbar that's got a sharp edge on it. With all of our bushcraft style knives, we have 5 categories that we tested in to score to give it its overall grade. Those 5 categories are chopping and batoning, cutting, feather sticking, spine scraping, and ferrule rod usage. I will tell you right off the bat that this knife is not my favorite knife. I was given this as a gift from my wife a few years ago. She had seen that it had a really high spike in popularity and wanted to get it for me. I've carried it only a few times just so I could get a good handle on it and how to use it, because it is definitely different in the realm of bushcraft on how heavy it is. And it has a unique style handle that has this signature curve right here that fits your hand into it. I could see that if you had bigger hands than I did, that could be an issue. For me, it's not so much of an issue, but if you have very large hands, I could see that being a problem. The first thing that I would say is, as soon as you get this knife, take the sheath, throw it in a fire and burn that thing, because it is the most worthless sheath I've ever used in my entire life. 500 knives that I personally own, and that's the one sheath that I would toss out immediately. It's dangerous. I got a $20 leather sheath off of Amazon and replaced it almost immediately, and it's a cheap little setup, but it works great for this knife. This is a very hard cedar limb that I tore off of a tree. It chopped right through it. It was taking massive chunks of that limb off, and it's making very clean chunks that come off of it. So I'm quite impressed with that.
Let me try.
You very impressed with that?
Yeah, but I want to cut with that too.
In a little bit. As you can see, this is a pretty thick piece. And one of the things I always talk about is blade integrity. After you get done chopping, you want to make sure that your blade is heat treated well enough and it's a strong enough steel to keep a good edge once you get done chopping with it. Wow. Wow. So as you're seeing, this thing is batoning through wood at never before seen kind of pace. But it's so thick and it is very sharp. So when it goes into that first bit of wood, it's literally splitting like a maul. This is thick enough that it's acting like a maul. You can see that it's already split almost all the way down just from hitting it in twice. So for baton and chopping, I'm quite impressed. It's getting a 10 out of 10 on batoning and chopping. And if I awarded extra credit points, this thing would definitely get a couple extra credit points for batoning and chopping. Our second category that we want to get right into is cutting. So what we've done here, besides just cutting a piece of wood, is we've also cut out a spindle. And what I'm finding is that on the long strokes, it cuts off long stroke pieces very, very well. When you're digging in, it's literally popping wood off of there. And I think that obviously has a lot to do with the extreme thickness of it, and so it has no problem doing that. The issue that I've happened upon now is that when you're trying to do these more intricate cuts or smaller cuts to carve out the top and the beginning piece where you're going to burn in your hearthboard with your spindle, is that it's so thick. Let me get closer. It's so thick that when you're trying to curve out those cuts a little bit right there, that it's hitting, and I don't know how well you can see that on here, but it's hitting the thickness of the side before the edge can actually get in there. So you're not able to make very, very fine detailed cuts. So for cutting, I'll be quite honest, I really didn't expect much out of it just because of how thick it is, and I've never been a big fan of the coating, and I'm even just rubbing the coating off from doing chopping and cutting. So it's not even the coating is not even very well executed on the blade. But for cutting, I'm quite impressed actually. It does a lot better, especially on thicker, higher angle or higher degree of angle of cuts. Cuts very well. Where it starts to diminish on its ability is where you're trying to have very small, fine angles on your cuts, and where you would be like carving a spoon, it's going to be hard pressed to carve a spoon with that. You can carve your friction fire set with it, but it takes a lot more practice and being very used to this knife to be able to do it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 on cutting. Next category that we're going to go into with the Becker BK2 is feather sticking. and see how it does. So the feather sticking, I'm very pleased with it. I'm going to give it a pretty high score, higher than I personally thought. In the back of my mind I was going to give it. I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10 on feather sticking. The next task that we're going to go into is spine scraping. If you watched our last video, I knocked down the knife because of the coating. And as this is an out-of-the-box knife review, I can tell you that this spine is not very sharp. It's something that can be fixed by stripping it. Okay, what I'm noticing, you'll see if I can get it up here on the video. Yeah, it's taking the bark off, but what you want something to do when you're scraping bark is you want it to scrape it off in a fluffy substance, so those fibers are broken down and fluffy so that it'll catch a spark. What it's doing with this bark is it's kind of just like breaking it off almost in these long strands where the fibers are not broken up. So you're going to have to rough it up yourself, which is obviously easy to do after the fact. But, you know, that's obviously something we're going to have to knock it down for. Some wood with it. And as you've heard me say before, an exercise in futility. It's just scraping the coating off onto the stick. And I'm going to try to see if you can see this on here. Right there. Even the coating, like I said before, it's not very well executed. It's coming off. And I'm feeling some nicks. Some nicks in it. I don't know if you can see that on there, which I assume is from the batoning portion of it. So I'm a little disappointed that it feels like maybe the heat treat is keeping the portion of the spine a little bit softer than the edge is. Not really sure about that. So for spine scraping, it's getting a 2 out of 10. The last category we use is ferrule rod usage. Zero. It won't scrape a ferrule rod. So overall, my impression of the knife is very good for a knife in this price range, and I think it's in the $65 to $85 price range on Amazon. On the Kabar website it says $137, but they're much cheaper on Amazon. But overall, I like the knife, and I would suggest picking it up and giving it a try. If this is something that you are interested in, it's definitely a knife that's worth spending the money on because it's not very expensive. We very much appreciate you spending the time to watch our video. I know there's plenty of other things you could be doing, so we really thank you. If you would, please go to Knife Reviews on YouTube and Facebook. Give it a like, subscribe, watch all of our other videos. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about the knife. We really appreciate it. You can contact us on Facebook or YouTube by leaving us a message, and our email address is knives@knifereview.us. We hope you have a wonderful day. Stay cool out there. God bless. Do widzenia.